The other day, a close friend of mine told me something that genuinely shook her. Her husband had just been diagnosed with stage 3 kidney disease. What shocked her most wasn't the diagnosis itself. It was everything that didn't happen before it. He wasn't in pain. No burning. No blood in his urine. No warning signs that anyone usually looks for. By all conventional advice, they thought they were doing everything right. He didn't add salt to his food. His blood sugar was normal. He wasn't diabetic. He felt fine. Completely fine. Then one quiet morning, she noticed something small, almost easy to dismiss. His socks were leaving deep marks around his ankles. They weren't painful, just slightly puffy. The kind of thing most people would shrug off and call normal. And that's exactly what they did. It wasn't until much later, when he finally went in for routine blood tests, that the story changed. The lab results told a completely different truth. His kidney function wasn't just a little off. It was already severely impaired. What they didn't realize, what most people never realize, is that this kind of damage doesn't happen overnight. It happens quietly, progressively, over years. And by the time your body finally speaks up, your kidneys may have already been struggling for a very long time. Pause. That's why this matters. Here's something most people are never told. Kidney disease rarely starts with pain. There's usually no sharp warning, no sudden collapse, no moment where your body forces you to stop and pay attention. Instead, it starts with pressure, quiet pressure, high pressure, the kind you don't feel. Day after day, your kidneys filter your blood, thousands of times, under that pressure. And when the pressure is just a little too high, something subtle begins to happen. Not all at once. Not dramatically, just microscopic damage, repeated again and again. Each day, a tiny bit of wear. Each week, a little more strain. Each year, a little less reserve. And because this damage is silent, most people keep living their normal lives. They feel fine. They function normally. They assume everything is okay. That's what makes kidney disease so progressive and so unnoticed. By the time symptoms finally appear, a significant amount of kidney function may already be gone. Not because anyone ignored a loud warning, but because there wasn't one. This is why kidney disease is so often discovered by accident, during a routine blood test, a casual checkup, or after something small seems slightly off. And when people hear the diagnosis, the most common reaction is the same. How could this happen? I felt fine. That question alone is worth sitting with for a moment. Because the real risk isn't pain. It's assuming that feeling okay means nothing is quietly changing beneath the surface. Pause. And that's when it becomes important to understand what's really putting pressure on the kidneys, long before they ever complain. To understand why this matters, it helps to step back and look at what your kidneys are doing for you, quietly, every single day. Your kidneys don't work in shifts. They work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Every minute, large volumes of blood flow through them. They filter waste. They return what your body still needs. And they carefully adjust the balance, again and again. Your kidneys help regulate blood pressure, not just by removing fluid, but by releasing signals that tell your blood vessels when to tighten or relax. They keep your electrolytes, sodium, potassium, magnesium, within a very narrow range. Small shifts here can affect your heart, your nerves, and your muscles. They also manage your acid-base balance, making sure your blood stays within a safe, stable pH, something you never consciously think about, but rely on constantly. What many people don't realize is that the kidneys are among the most highly vascular organs in the body. A large portion of your blood supply passes through them every single day. That means they carry an enormous metabolic workload. They are resilient, but they are not invincible. And because they work so quietly and efficiently, they can be under strain for a long time before anything feels wrong. Pause. Which is why protecting them isn't about reacting to pain. It's about reducing unnecessary pressure before damage ever accumulates. Most people think of high blood pressure as a heart issue. And yes, it does strain the heart. But what's talked about far less is what that pressure is doing to your kidneys day after day. Inside each kidney are millions of tiny filtering units called nephrons. And within each nephron is a delicate structure that filters your blood under pressure. When blood pressure runs high, it doesn't just pass through politely. It hits those filters directly, every single day. At first, the kidneys try to adapt. They tighten here, they compensate there. But over time, that constant force increases pressure inside the filtering units themselves. This leads to scarring, hardening, loss of flexibility. This process is slow. It's gradual. And it's very easy to miss because you don't feel nephrons failing. And here's the part that matters most. Once a nephron is gone, it does not grow back. You are born with a fixed number, and over your lifetime, you slowly lose them. A helpful way to picture this is like hair loss. You don't wake up one morning completely bald. You lose a few hairs each day. You barely notice. Until one day, you look in the mirror and see the patch. High blood pressure works the same way inside the kidneys. Each pressure spike takes a few more nephrons with it. Each year of uncontrolled pressure reduces your reserve. And by the time kidney function drops enough to show up on a test or cause symptoms, a significant amount of that loss has already happened. That's why high blood pressure isn't just a number to watch. It's one of the most powerful and underestimated drivers of long-term kidney damage, which is why the real question isn't just, is my blood pressure high? It's, how much pressure are my kidneys absorbing every single day? When people start worrying about their kidneys, the first thing they usually hear is, cut out the salt. And while salt matters, kidney protection isn't just about avoiding one ingredient. It's about what your food is doing inside your blood vessels and inside your kidneys after you eat. The goal isn't deprivation, it's relief, relieving pressure on the blood vessels, helping them relax rather than tighten, supporting mineral balance so sodium isn't acting alone without potassium or magnesium to counter it, reducing inflammation which quietly accelerates scarring inside the kidneys over time. In other words, food can either increase the workload on your nephrons or help take some of that load off. This is where everyday whole foods become surprisingly powerful, not because they treat anything, but because they consistently create a calmer internal environment. And once you see food through that lens, the choices become much clearer. So let's look at the kinds of foods that naturally help your blood vessels relax and your kidneys breathe a little easier. If there's one principle to keep in mind here, it's this. Your kidneys do best when blood flows smoothly, not forcefully. That's why the most supportive foods aren't about restriction. They're about relaxation, relaxing blood vessels, lowering internal pressure, and easing the workload on those delicate filtering units. One of the most effective groups of foods for this are cooked leafy greens, spinach, silver beet greens. Familiar vegetables you'll find in almost any supermarket. When cooked, these greens provide potassium, magnesium, and natural nitrates. Inside the body, those nitrates are converted into nitric oxide, a molecule that signals blood vessels to gently relax. When blood vessels relax, pressure inside the kidney's filtration units drops, and that alone can slow long-term nephron loss. Cooking also matters. Light cooking reduces oxalates while preserving minerals, making these greens gentler for people concerned about kidney stones. This is one reason whole, cooked vegetables are preferred over juicing. The next group often surprises people: beans and lentils. Protein is frequently blamed for kidney problems, but context matters. Plant proteins come packaged with fiber, potassium, magnesium, and alkaline compounds. This combination helps reduce acid load, supports gut bacteria, and avoids sharp spikes in pressure inside the kidneys. Beans also improve insulin sensitivity and help stabilize blood pressure after meals, both of which protect kidney tissue over time. Then there's oats. Oats contain a special type of fiber called beta-glucan, which helps lower LDL cholesterol and improve the flexibility of blood vessels. They also soften post-meal blood pressure rises, stabilize blood sugar, and reduce overactivity of the nervous system, the fight or flight state that keeps vessels constricted. For the kidneys, this means smoother blood flow, fewer pressure swings, and less mechanical. Pressure isn't the only thing that wears kidneys down over time. Another major driver of kidney decline is oxidative stress, the gradual damage caused by free radicals during normal metabolism, especially in organs that work as hard as the kidneys do. Because your kidneys filter large volumes of blood all day and all night, they are particularly vulnerable to this kind of stress. This is where berries play a unique role. Blueberries, strawberries, raspberries. They're relatively low in calories and gentle on blood sugar, yet rich in polyphenols like anthocyanins and flavonoids. These compounds don't just act as antioxidants floating around in the bloodstream. They help protect mitochondria, the energy centers inside kidney cells, allowing them to function more efficiently under constant workload. By reducing oxidative damage, berries help slow the structural wear that leads to nephron loss over time. They also improve insulin sensitivity and reduce inflammation in the tiny blood vessels that feed the kidneys. Then there are cruciferous vegetables: broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, and many Asian greens. What makes this group special isn't just fiber or vitamins, it's their sulfur-containing compounds. When these vegetables are chopped or chewed, they form molecules such as sulforaphane, which activate the body's own internal detoxification systems. Rather than forcing the kidneys to flush out toxins, these foods help your cells become better at neutralizing and exporting harmful byproducts themselves. This reduces There's another piece of kidney health that often goes unnoticed: the gut-kidney axis. Your kidneys don't work in isolation. They're closely influenced by what's happening in your digestive system. When your gut bacteria are well supported, they produce short-chain fatty acids, such as butyrate. These compounds help lower systemic inflammation and strengthen the gut barrier. Why does that matter for the kidneys? Because when the gut barrier is weakened, certain waste products, known as uremic toxins, enter the bloodstream. Substances like these place an extra detoxification burden on the kidneys and accelerate long-term damage. Supporting the gut helps reduce that load. This is where foods like mushrooms, ground flax seeds, and water-rich vegetables come in. Mushrooms provide unique fibers that modulate immune activity and improve insulin sensitivity, while adding flavor that reduces reliance on excess salt. Ground flax seeds offer fiber and plant-based fats that support blood pressure balance and gut health at the same time. Water-rich vegetables, such as cucumbers, zucchini, and celery, help maintain hydration. When it comes to kidney health, most people aren't doing anything wrong on purpose. They're often just missing a few important details. One common misunderstanding is where salt actually comes from. It's not usually the salt shaker on the table. It's the hidden sodium in packaged and processed foods. Breads, sauces, soups, and restaurant meals can quietly deliver far more sodium than we realize. Another area of confusion is protein. Protein itself isn't the problem. The issue arises when intake is consistently high, without enough plant foods to balance the acid load. Over time, this places extra work on the kidneys, especially when potassium and magnesium are lacking. This is why long-term low-carbohydrate, high-protein approaches may feel fine at first, but gradually increase renal workload for some people. This isn't about labels or rules. Small adjustments, made consistently, often matter far more than extreme changes. One of the most empowering things you can do for your kidneys is also one of the simplest. Know your blood pressure, not once, not occasionally, but as a gentle daily habit. When you check it, sit quietly for a few minutes first. Rest your arm at heart level, keep your feet flat on the floor, and take the reading when you're calm, ideally at the same time each day. Morning readings are often the most helpful, as many cardiovascular changes occur in the early hours after waking, and it's important not to rely on a single number. Blood pressure naturally fluctuates throughout the day. One high or low reading doesn't tell the full story. Patterns do. This isn't about monitoring out of fear. It's about awareness. When you know your usual range, you're far more likely to notice meaningful changes early, when small adjustments still make a difference. This is how health stays manageable, quietly, consistently, and very much within your control. Kidney disease doesn't appear overnight. It develops slowly, over years, shaped by countless small pressures, habits, and choices that rarely feel urgent in the moment. And in the same way, kidney health is built quietly, day by day, not through drastic measures, not through fear or perfection, but through steady, supportive routines that reduce strain rather than add to it. Every meal that helps blood vessels relax, every choice that balances minerals instead of overwhelming them, every step that lowers inflammation and eases the kidney's workload. These things may seem small, but over time they matter more than most people realize. Whole, unprocessed foods act like long-term insurance for your kidneys. Not because they cure anything, but because they consistently create a calmer internal environment. And perhaps the most important thing to remember is this: you don't need to do everything at once. You don't need to do it perfectly. You just need to understand what helps and return to it gently and consistently. That's how independence is preserved. That's how confidence grows, and that's how your kidneys are supported. Quietly, faithfully, for the long term.